Next up, Dr. Jeffrey Gladden. I've known him for a while. I had the pleasure of being on one of his podcasts a while back. Of anything you could say about him, he's just one incredibly cool dude. You'll notice that he didn't really feel necessary to dress up for the occasion. Don't take it personally. Apparently, he never dresses up. But he mountain bikes, he surfs, he snowboards, plays the guitar apparently incredibly well. And it is my honor and duty to actually introduce him to the stage and then request that he maybe joins in some of our musical numbers next year. So while he's in the presence of all of you, I'm supposed to get his word that he will entertain us next year. Sir?
Yes? You got it. All right.
Oh, fantastic.
Cool. Greetings. Good to be here. Really love the opportunity to be here. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to take you on a journey. This is going to be a little bit of a different talk, but we're going to go on a journey together. And it's going to be a journey that's punctuated by an exponential problem, an exponential solution, and potentially, and I think a reality, an exponential outcome. And I want to show you what I mean by that. Okay. So, first off, I want to start by celebrating each one of you. Because I think all of you in this room are heroes. In fact, I think we're all heroes. And I think the reason that you are is because you're not only special and different, but the reason you're special and different is because you're asking a different set of questions. You're not settling for the status quo. You're asking, how do we actually do this better? And I think that makes you a hero. And I think each of you, each of us, myself included, we're all on a hero's journey. And if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell, he's outlined the hero's journey, which is an archetype in literature for heroes going through transformative experiences. And that's what all of us are about. So all of us are here on a hero's journey. I want you to know that at the end of the hero's journey, and at the end of this talk, I want you to understand that your future is more than you know, and that you have a greater future than you can even imagine. And I want to show that to you as we go along here. So let's begin. So the hero's journey, it begins with the call to adventure, right? And in each of our lives, we've run into something where we understand that the trajectory of our life is not necessarily what we want it to be, right? We've all had our brush with mortality. Everybody's had something that's come up. And this is an opportunity at that point. We make a decision. And my hero's journey started with me going along, being an interventional cardiologist. So I practiced interventional cardiology for 25 years in Dallas, Texas. I had the opportunity to build my own heart group. We had 10 offices, 12 doctors, flew around in a little A36 Bonanza servicing Southeast Oklahoma, Northeast Texas. I had the opportunity to co-found a heart hospital in Dallas, Texas, in Plano. It's become a nationally recognized heart hospital, and it arose because we were asking a different set of questions, right? How do we provide a better patient care experience? I'm also entrepreneurial, among other things. I've been involved with several medical device companies, startups, et cetera, et cetera. So I have also a history with athletics, and I do love to mountain bike. I mountain biked on Labor Day before I came up here from Puerto Rico. And I love sports. I love surfing. I'm not very good at stand-up paddle surfing. I'm a good body surfer, but I'm learning to surf, and that's a great thing. I'm actually a very good snowboarder. Love this activity, guitar player, etc. So there I am, going along with my life. And I knew going along in my hero's journey that I had some challenges. I knew I had old challenges. My kidneys were damaged when I was age 5. I had a strep throat. I had post-strep glomerulonephritis. If you're familiar with that, it damages the kidneys. And so my kidney function's always been borderline. And if you know about longevity, kidney function is a major driver of longevity. Okay, now each of you has your challenges too. My father died with dementia, right? And so that's always been a worry for me. So I'm going along in my life, and in my 50s, I ran into new challenges, right? I ran into new challenges. I was extremely fatigued. I had a lot going on, as I showed you. I was extremely fatigued. I was losing muscle mass, losing strength, having increased body fat. When I would come under stress, I would get depressed, but not just a little depressed. I would go over a waterfall of depression. It was like, oh my God, I just want the world to end. And I was developing brain fog. So I went in and I got tested. I basically got tested by some of my colleagues, and what I was told when the test results came back were, all your test results are normal, you're just getting older. Why don't you take an antidepressant? Okay? So, in your own hero's journey, you have run into this same thing. I'm sure we have this in common. My story is your story is my story. We're in this together. So, at that point, there's a fork in the road. We either become the hero of our own lives and reclaim what I think is our birthright, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, or we acquiesce. We actually give in and say, okay, I guess I'm just getting older. And then we think about, well, if I'm going to fight back, then I have to overcome the objections of, well, it can't be done. Well, yes, it can. No, it's too complicated. No, it takes too much time. It takes too many resources. I don't really want to restructure my life and my environment. I like things the way they are. Or what I think is even the most seductive and sort of subtle saying no, if you will, or refusing the call, is this idea of acquiescence. It's the idea of saying, well, I know I'm not great, but I'm pretty good, right? And even if you choose to go on the hero's journey, it's possible to carry some of these refusals with you. So I'd like you to look at your own journey that you're on. Is there things that you're saying still that can't be done, or it's too complicated, or it requires too much time, or I don't have the resources, I don't want to create the new environment, or I'm pretty good the way I am and I'm pretty happy where I'm at, right? Because that's an acquiescence. That's not really fighting back. That's not really getting to where we want to go. So from here, you cross over a threshold of understanding. And in my case, that came from stepping out of my cardiology role, devoting 2.5 years to cracking the code on my issues: subclinical hypothyroidism, hormone depletion, DNA methylation issues, depression, brain fog. Everything became clear, and I was able to solve every single problem. And I realized at that point I'd been practicing sick care, not health care. So I left a very busy practice with many things. I stepped away from a heart hospital, 10 offices, the whole 9 yards, right? Talk about taking a dive. It takes courage to go on a hero's journey, right? In fact, I think the number one thing it does take is courage. You have to have the courage to take that choice. And I also learned out in that process that the questions we ask are infinitely more powerful than the answers we currently have. And at Gladden Longevity, we literally have thousands of answers now, thousands of answers that we didn't have before. And we're not married to a single one of them, not a single one, because answers all have a shelf life. Questions are eternal. And as you think about your own process, your own hero's journey here, think about what questions are you asking? What questions are you asking? What's driving you forward in your process? So in my world, I'm asking, how good can we be, right? That's a global question. How good can we be? This is mental, spiritual, intellectual, physical, athletic, right? Everything. How good can we be? The other question that drives us is, how do we make 100 the new 30, right? I like being young, right? I wake up 27 every day. I like being young. The other one is, how do we live well beyond 120? How do we actually crack the Hayflick limit? How do we do that? And so we're devoted to answering that question. And the last one is, how do we live young for a lifetime? This is an important question. All these questions kind of focus in a particular way, if you will. Now, one of the big problems that we face in our hero's journey is we don't even understand the game that we're playing. And I see this over and over again. We tend to think that aging is a linear process. Every year, another birthday. I'm another year older. I'm not that much different. So it's a linear process. But it's not. It's actually an exponential process. It's an exponential process. And yet we have a very hard time relating to an exponential process. It's very, very hard for us to imagine that we're going to have exponential decline. I'll give you an example. If I ask you, what are you going to be like 10 years from now? What are you going to be like 15 years from now? It's very, very hard to imagine you're going to be anything different than what you are, right? Very, very hard. And yet we see it all around us. So we are seduced into thinking we're playing a linear game, but it's an exponential problem. right? The first part of our story. It's an exponential problem that we're in the middle of. If you don't think so, this is data from Stanford showing how aging proteins increase with age. Look at what happens between 63 and 78. That is a massive increase in the aging process. We are in an exponential game, and we are playing for keeps, right? Understand the game that you're playing. You won't win if you don't understand the game you're playing. The other thing I want to point out is that we are a mosaic of many ages, many biological ages, many health ages, life energy metrics, which I'll show you, and performance metrics. So the idea that I would stand up here and tell you that my glycan age is 26, therefore my biological age is 26, is really not accurate. It's really not accurate. I'm actually a mosaic of many ages. My telomeres are another age, my mitochondria are another age, my cardiovascular system's another age. And so for you to be seduced by a single number, saying my biological age is this, therefore I'm good, don't be seduced by that. Understand that if you're going to win at this game, you need to actually know what is your mosaic of ages. And I'll tell you why that's important. Because you are only as young as your oldest age. So you need to know where's your weakness, not pat yourself on the back because you had an age that came back significantly younger. Okay, this is really important if we're going to win our hero's journey. So out of this, you start to understand that aging is multifaceted, it's complex, and it's exponential. It's like a very complex ecosystem, like a rainforest, right? Think about this. It's an ecosystem that we're coaxing back into youthful expression. Now, as you go along on your hero's journeys, one of the next things that comes up is there are tests and allies and enemies that show up. So traditional medicine, as you know, will not support you, right? Traditional medicine will not support you. We have a sick care system. I left sick care for health care. And we have, at best, a flawed defensive strategy in sick care. Biohacking plus getting healthy. This is also a linear response to an exponential problem. It doesn't fully take into account the complexity of what's going on. So if your idea is, I'm going to sleep better, eat better, exercise, take some supplements, that is also a linear response to an exponential problem. And the next part of the hero's journey is to enter the cave, right? This is where we find the answers. And in my experience, being in this field now for really about 15 years, counting when I first got sick, things that I've learned are the following, and I want to share them with you. The first is you need to define your target, right? So if your target is longevity, well, the definition of longevity is long life or long existence. Now, in my case, that's not exactly what I'm going for, because every picture I've ever seen of somebody 100 or 110 or 120 is not what I'm going for. It really isn't, right? Maybe you feel the same. So defining the target for me is I want to live young for a lifetime, and even more importantly, on a spiritual note, I want to actually enter into a state of enlightenment. And when you heard Jim Sproul talk about some of his epiphanies that he's had in the last 18 months, this is what he's talking about also. I've had similar experiences in different ways. Thank you. It's also important to understand that I have a different concept of the future of medicine. So, sick care is symptom-driven medicine. We're all familiar with that. Root cause medicine, functional medicine, integrative medicine. It's good, it makes a contribution. But what we really need, if we're going to have an exponential strategy here, is longevity medicine. And longevity medicine is focused directly at the drivers of aging. Now, you've heard already about hallmarks of aging. You've heard there are 9, there are 12, there are 14. Well, actually, we're up to 16. There was a 15th added last November. There were 5 last March that were added. And there was another one added in July of this year in a paper from David Sinclair at Harvard. There will be more drivers of aging. These are the things that we need to be going after. These are the things, this is the river, the current that's carrying us forward over the waterfall of that exponential decline. So at Gladden Longevity, we've developed what we feel is an exponential strategy. And it consists basically of 4 circles: life, energy, longevity, health, and performance, and 4 levels. foundational science, which we're using AI to feed into these circles, and out of that information, we identify levers that need to be pulled or actuated. But when it comes to longevity, it's not just about, okay, here are the levers, let's pull them. There's actually a timing, a sequence, a frequency, an intensity, and duration with which they're pulled. It's symphonic, it's musical. I'm a guitar player. It kind of resonated with me that, oh, this is a musical activity. Biology likes to cycle in and out of different phases. There are different rhythms going on. It doesn't want to be keto all the time. It doesn't want to be this all the time. It wants to cycle in and out of phases. It's a symphony. And in that regard, we do a lot of testing that gets sent around the world for people, because we want to know where are we relative to those levers. And we've developed a new company. The next speaker will talk about this. He and I have developed a company together to go after this in more detail. Then we prescribe actions, and we have feedback loops with all kinds of follow-up testing, wearables, et cetera. We feel like this is becoming an exponential strategy. So as we go through that, we basically are looking at things related to longevity. We measure all these different things. We don't have time to go through each of them. But there's a couple pages of them. We go through and we measure many things related to health, sleep, etc. We also measure many things related to performance. Because if you're not able to perform like a 30-year-old now, you're not going to be able to perform like a 30-year-old when you're 100. And what does it mean to be fit? It doesn't mean you have muscle mass. It means you're fast, agile, strong, quick, balanced, right? With good cardiovascular capacity, great recovery. That's what I want to be, right? When you come by the Gladden Longevity booth over there, you'll see images of me wearing brain tap on an endo board, right? So these are the kinds of things that keep us young. And I want to point out that these circles are also related in another way. And that is that the life energy circle is the one that really binds them all together. And we've heard some things about this. Dr. Vu did a nice presentation on elements of this as well. And the life energy circle, as we define it, has to do with having a growth mindset, which is, are you married to your current answers or are you married to your questions? If you're married to your current answers, no, I like it this way, you're already in the backwash. What you do in your 30s is not necessarily what needs to be done in your 40s. What you do in your 40s is not what necessarily needs to be done in your 50s, and on and on. You have to keep asking the questions, changing what you're doing and upping the game. Optimizing mental health, this is massive. So much anxiety, depression, etc. These are all solvable problems. The reason we have this, of course, is we've all gone through traumas in our lives, every one of us. We live then in reaction to those traumas. We create stories around those reactions, and we make identities out of those stories. So now these traumas get imprinted into our psychology, and we go around on tilt, living in reaction to these things. And one of the hero's journey things that's so important is to become unencumbered from those stories, right? And so I've done a lot of work to become unencumbered from my stories. This is part of your journey too, because it creates so much stress if you don't do it. Feeling loved, feeling profoundly unconditional love for yourself, optimizing relational health. What's a good relationship? For me, it's to know and be known and love and be loved. There's much more to this in the book that I wrote. I don't have time to go through it all. Feeling joy is critical. Optimizing your spiritual health is awesome. Every study ever done has shown that people that believe and think about being connected to something else, they live longer, they recover better, they do better. Feeling worthy. So many people don't feel worthy. This is one of the stories that they have, right? You have stories playing that are holding you back, and I want you to become unencumbered. Feeling safe. This is massive. So much anxiety, depression, anger, frustration really comes from not feeling safe. And just like giving yourself unconditional love is an internal job. It's something you do for yourself. Making yourself feel safe is something you have to do for yourself, because there's nothing external to us that will ever make us feel safe. There's not enough money, not enough health. Nothing can ever truly make us feel safe. It has to come from within. And it has to come, I think, from a more spiritual perspective. And then feeling this energetic resonance with the universe, right? This greater sense of purpose. When you connect to the vibration, the energy that's in this room, to the universe, to the planet, it changes your perspective on everything. So then you go through the ordeal. This is where you start to transform through implementation. And it starts with this. Number one, you claim an age. I claim to be 27, right? Understand where you are in the aging process. Don't do one biological test. Measure as many mosaics as you can, because the deeper understanding you have, the more exponential your response will be. And then work to optimize your life energy, your longevity, your health and performance. There are many ways to do this. We love doing this. And then this leads to what I call age hacking plus longevity medicine. Now this is becoming really an exponential response to an exponential problem. So in my practice, we've developed a trial, an IRB-approved trial called LifeRAFT. It's the Life Energy Resilience Anti-Fragility Trial. And in that trial, which we started in May of 2022, that's me getting young plasma through plasmapheresis, we focus on all 4 circles. And we also have many technologies. We have access to a telomerase technology that's game-changing, quite honestly. We use plasmapheresis, we use own plasma. We do stem cells. We use mTOR-A and PK balancing with rapamycin. We have senolytics, all kinds of things. And what you're going to hear next, we're actually going straight at the drivers of aging by looking at the transcriptomics and proteomics of the expression of the genes in those drivers of aging, and then developing custom peptides to go in and modulate the genes back into a youthful expression. It's quite dramatic. It's quite dramatic. So this is the company, Genesis Longevity Bioscience. So when you end up with an exponential strategy, and when you put this together, you're actually playing a symphony of longevity, as I call it. You have balance, you have adaptability, rejuvenation. It's all built on a growth mindset, and it leads to resilience and robustness. And when you factor in that you can become unencumbered from your past by optimizing your life energy circle, I want to show you what the prize is, because it's an exponential outcome. The outcome that we can have is a 30-year-old body with a 300-year-old mind, right? All the wisdom, all the insight of a 300-year-old mind and a 30-year-old body, that's the outcome. And this is what happens to us if we do nothing. We have an exponential decline in our health with aging, and the solid line there is showing an exponential increase in our opportunities and our impact as we grow in wisdom, capability, resources, etc. And yet when those lines meet, our ability to impact the world goes down. This is the tragedy of human existence. This is why we're all here. We don't want to suffer this fate. When you stay young for a lifetime, look what happens to that exponential ability to increase. It doesn't stop. Your return on investment for what you're doing here today is given back to you 1,000-fold. 1,000-fold by new opportunities, new abilities to make an impact, a positive impact on the world, each other, the community, your families, yourself. And I want you to be, ultimately, I want you to be the hero of your own life, right? This is my story and it's your story too. And for me, it's about living young and enlightened for a lifetime. So I can make exponential impact and have exponential opportunities. I write more about this in the book that just came out last week, 100 is the New 30, how playing the Symphony of Longevity will enable us to live young for a lifetime. In 2 days, it hit #1 on Amazon, which I was pretty pleased about. But I think you might enjoy it as well. So I hope you find that helpful. I hope there's some insights in there that help you construct your own hero's journey and go after the things that will be most helpful to you. Thanks.